Welcome to Truth Africa series, Unapologetic and Truthful. I am your host, Yemi Melikaya.
Nobody cares about us. And brothers and sisters, if you want to know how weak we are, and we are weak, look at how we are treated. Last month, the world met in New York. The General Assembly. When African heads of states and government are speaking, the hall is empty. Nobody bothers because they are saying nothing. Even if they are saying something, it is something that can be ignored. Compare when an African head of state and government is speaking and when the Prime Minister of Little Israel is speaking. They will listen because we are weak and disunited. So we have a weak continent because the spirit of Pan-Africanism disappeared. So the question that we can ask, what is the state of Pan-Africanism as we speak today? The African Union, which is weak, says the right things and does the wrong things 9 out of 10 times. And what are the critical areas in which we are weak? We are weak politically because nobody listens to us. We are not trading with one another. Intra-African trade is not anything beyond 15%, the lowest anywhere in the world. If you look at all our sectors and look at them, look at our agriculture, almost all African countries are net food importers. There is not a single African country that is in meaningful technology. Not a single African country produces a mobile phone. Yet the single most important ingredient in mobile telephony is to be found in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Not a single African country produces a car other than assembling completely knocked down kits. There is no meaningful production of pharmaceutical products in Africa. And if there was any doubt, COVID exposed it. All African countries, the 55 of them, are waiting to either receive Sinovac from China, Sputnik from Russia, AstraZeneca, Johnson or Moderna. And we don't even know what they are because our bureaus of standardization don't know. If you ask the Ethiopian Bureau of Standards what they are asking us to be injected with, they do not know. They just believe it is a vaccine because the Americans have said so or because the Chinese have said so. Africa is weak. So that even this magnificent edifice, I suspect, has not been erected by Ethiopian engineers. When I see the signage in Chinese, I suspect it is the Chinese. That is how weak we are. That is the reality of our mother continent. It is because we are politically weak, we are economically weak, socially we are disorganized, culturally and spiritually we are confused. That is the continent in which we are today. We unite or we perish. That as I travel across the world, people do not care about our Tanzanianness or our Ghanaianness or our Kenyanness or our Ethiopianness. In their eyes, we are all Africans. And perhaps that is what we should use as the building block in order to talk about African unity. But we are not being naive about that unity. Because sometimes when we talk about Pan-Africanism and about African unity, people think we are being too simplistic about it. No, it is not being simplistic and being naive. It is recognizing that as long as we remain the way we are, then Africa in the next 25 years will be recolonized.
The word recolonization is certainly not the most liked word in the vocabulary of the ruling elite of our continent. It only becomes useful when they are losing power or are falling out of favor with their foreign handlers, who now want them to be replaced by another of their puppets. When you take a closer look at most of the problems that Africa faces, one sees the ghost or hidden hand of colonial imperialists in one form or another. Libya, South Sudan, the scourge of Boko Haram in Nigeria, and now the so-called terror threat in Cabo Delgado province all point to the scramble for the natural resources found in abundance on the continent. You do not need to be a rocket scientist to join the dots and ask the question, why is it that instability on our continent seems to be concentrated in highly resourced areas? The answer is very simple. Africa has long been considered to be a lucky packet of resources, particularly by the Western countries. The history of Libya as an Italian colony began in 1910. South Sudan was part of the Republic of Sudan, a British colony that was later governed using a hybrid system called condominium rule between the British and the Tukor Egyptians. The British governed the north and south of Sudan on the basis of one country, two systems. Islam and the Arabic language and culture were promoted in the northern part of Sudan, whereas the southern part, Christianity and the English language were promoted. Nigeria was in effect colonized by the British in 1895. Other European powers acknowledged Britain's dominance in the area at the 1885 Berlin Conference. Nigeria gained its independence in 1960. The Portuguese have occupied Mozambique since 1498, using it as a traditional post after they defeated its former Arab rulers. The country gained its independence in 1975 after a protracted guerrilla war waged by the Frelimo Party. In all these countries, one sees instability as a direct manifestation of their colonial past. In the first place, the colonizers stole the land from the indigenous people of these countries. Secondly, colonization was all about looting the resources of the people. The recolonization project has taken a new twist. It is being aided and abetted by puppet rulers who have been placed there by their colonial masters. Many of the problems that Africa faces lie squarely on the shoulders of the colonialists and their anointed puppet leaders. Almost all countries on the African continent are blessed with natural resources, including oil, uranium, liquid nitrogen gas, gold, diamonds, etc. Unfortunately, this God-given wealth seems to be the main motivation for the so-called war on terror. One weakness that African leaders have and that seems to have been exploited by the major powers is their quest to strip Africa of its resources is that of entitlement. Many of our leaders feel entitled to rule. Instead of providing servant leadership, they expect people to feel forever indebted and grateful to them. We as Africans have failed to hold our political leaders to account. In parting, let me just sound the cautionary sentiment. Africa must be careful. Tomorrow we might wake up to find out that we have been completely recolonized and our resources have been taken over by the so-called friends dressed up in sheepskins. And there you have it, guys. Kindly share your opinion in the comment box below and do not forget to like this video so YouTube can share this video with more people like you. Until next time, cheers and have a good one.